back to the Green Bay game before we move on. I know everyone has had their 10 cents thrown in on this, but the bottom line is it comes down to, I don't think the blame is so much on any individual player as much as what Dante Whitner, did you catch what he said after the game?
No.
Basically, he alluded to the fact that the coaches let the players down.
Wow.
And I think
that's basically what Nick Bosa said yesterday. That's basically what Nick Bosa said.
Yeah, I think at this point it gets frustrating for players. And I think that the culmination of what went wrong in the Green Bay game can be formulated into Fred Warner and how lost he looked and how close to the line of scrimmage he was on that play where he made up for it with holding. And it's, okay, he needs to do better than that. He's all pro. I get that. But I just feel like the defensive scheme calling in that game had everybody high-strung, out of place, running around. And I think the biggest thing that Dante Whitner is correct about the coaching being the issue, and this is where we're not going to go over the whole game. I just want to go over those last couple passes. Why didn't anybody call timeouts? First things first, it's default to call a timeout once you see the play that Aaron Rodgers wants to run.
Right.
I'd wait for him to get under center, begin his count, timeouts.
Timeout. Now let's make them go to something else or develop a plan for what they just showed.
Right, and that's if everything was going well. But everything was not going well. People were running around. It looked to me like Jimmy Ward was trying to communicate where he was supposed to be, or maybe he was communicating to someone else. I'm not entirely sure. But he did look a little bit lost. And, of course, that pass split the zone perfectly. And it just didn't seem like anyone was accountable for Davante Adams on that play. Bad time to not be accountable. But, again, I think from the sidelines, someone needs to call timeouts. It's the last play of the game. Everyone knew that. There was no reason to just rush it and be like, let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
We had all timeouts at that point, correct?
Yeah. It's a good point. What I think is interesting about this 3-game stretch right here, we all looked at it as the critical 3-game stretch before the bye week. They're 0-1 so far. They're good enough to win the next 2 games. They're talented enough, certainly, to beat the Seahawks and then the Cardinals. My question is, are they well coached enough right now? And you always think of Kyle Shanahan as just like having his offense on lock. Right now, the offense and the defense have major problems. And if you look at it as through the lens of 2 rookie coordinators, maybe that explains it. Who knows how much Kyle Shanahan's doing, how much he's delegating, how much Mike McDaniel is at fault. Who knows? But 2 coaches that are very green. Is this team well coached enough to win the next 2 games? I don't know.
I think it's very possible that the D'Amico Ryans, I'm not saying that he is inept or that he is incapable of growth, but so far through these 3 games, to me, it seems like he just kind of puts the defense on cruise control. He's kind of relying, I think, on the players to make plays. And I'm not saying
isn't that what you expect from a rookie coordinator? What's he supposed to do?
Yeah, it's what I expect. But here's the thing. I had a little bit, I won't say high expectations. I had better expectations of only one field of his play, which has not been good, and that's his adaptability.
Right.
I just feel like Robert Saleh, there were some times where the opening drive against his defense, sometimes people seem to have the 49ers figured out. Even Nick Bosa wouldn't quite look like he was on the field yet mentally. And then Saleh would just sit there and be like, okay, got it. Okay, that's what they're doing. This is what they're doing. Listen to his players and adapt.
Yep.
D'Amico Ryans, to me, the problem with him being a rookie coordinator is it's difficult perhaps for him to mature and adapt. And that's what we're seeing here, is that he just leaves it on cruise control. And you know he cares. But I think on the sideline in that last play, he was just like, please, someone make a play.
Yeah.
There just wasn't enough pressure.
No.
He didn't give Aaron Rodgers different looks. And I'll be honest with you, Aaron Rodgers in that 4th quarter, I don't think he played that well. Until that drive, it seemed to me like he was falling apart. And it just seems like once he started falling apart, D'Amico Ryans was like, fine, just let him fall apart. I won't assist him. I won't pressure him. I'll let him drop back, sit in the pocket, and pick me apart. And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, and this Thursday, I've never really seen a player call out a coach the way that Nick Bosa really did.
Can you give us the quote?
Oh, I don't have the quote in front of me.
Or just paraphrase or something.
But essentially, he was saying like, yeah, I mean, we need to call chip beaters. There are things we can do schematically to beat the chips. We have them installed. Chris Kasarik has drawn them up. We just have to get them called. No idea why they didn't get called. I know they're going to get called in the future. I mean, he used the passive voice. He didn't say D'Amico didn't call him, but who calls the plays? D'Amico
Ryans. Well, the vicissitudes of play calling in that game were completely on D'Amico Ryans. He was falling apart. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of public accountability. I know it's media. We absolutely love to hear it. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of Nick Bosa doing that. I think these are things we started this show by basically saying what he was saying. We understand that the Miko Ryans did not adapt.
It's not a good thing when a 24-year-old non-captain goes out in the press conference and says that. I mean, say whatever you want in the meeting, but that's public. It looks like you're undermining your coach.
I think what you're seeing is frustration because they were spoiled with Robert Saleh. I don't know what avenues of communication that the Miko Ryans establishes. I don't know if he's as approachable or if he has a more democratic approach or how his style of coaching. I have yet to kind of get a feel for him. For right now, it seems like he's very passive to me. But I don't know what he's like as a former defensive player. I don't know what he's like behind closed doors. But if Nick Bosa feels empowered or frustrated enough to say that, then it seems to me like there's a little bit of defensive tension with the Miko Ryans. But you know what? The Green Bay Packers, we have to give them a little bit of credit. They got the ball out quickly. It eliminated Nick Bosa from that game. Nick Bosa was going against a third-string left tackle, and he just didn't look like he could do anything against him.
Yeah, where were you, Nick?
However, to give this left tackle credit, he was their highest-rated offensive lineman in the preseason. So he was their best backup, but he's still a backup. And Nick Bosa is supposed to be a future All-Pro.
That's right. So
this is not what you draft this player for. So you know what, Nick? I understand your frustration, but it's on you too. Big time on you because you are the secret weapon against Rodgers, and you were not there.
I got something real quick, a suggestion. This was not an issue for Vic Fangio when he had Aldon Smith. Chips. It was not an issue. And I think what Vic Fangio did, if I remember correctly, was he was more creative with the ways he would use Aldon Smith as a rusher. It wouldn't all be around the edge. He could line up sometimes Aldon Smith as a stand-up rusher in the interior. On third down, you could have him almost like lining up blitzing as an inside linebacker. It seems to me that if you can just get the offense guessing as to where Bosa is and get him moving around, stand him up, let him find the best area to rush if there's an obvious chip waiting for him on the edge. There are so many different things you can do. I don't know. Just trying to offer that.
I think what the Miko Ryans needs to understand is you can have the best player on the field, but in the offensive scheme, remember, the offensive linemen, they have the advantage of going back. I'm going to be blunt. With the exception of monsters like Trent Williams, they are not the fittest or strongest guys on the field. They are not. Yet somehow they are able to hold their own for the majority of snaps in a game. And it's because they get to go back. It's because they get to move the pocket to the outside. They get to backpedal. They get to push, things like that, or chip block or whatever. The advantage is to the offensive line. So the issue is, how do you scheme your defensive linemen to get into position for the best success? And that's your point there. Yeah. This is something that the Miko Ryans got punched in the mouth in this game. I don't feel like Green Bay was the better team. I honestly do not. They let this one get away. The offense was just kaput in the first half, and there was no adaptability. I think Shanahan, to be honest with you, adapted better to his side of the ball than DeMeco Ryans did to his by far, as evidenced by the score.
That's true. The offense improved as the game went along. Trey says, glad you bring up Kyle's coaching. We have known Kyle's coaching has been questionable since he became a head coach. Kyle can't game manage. Well,
I kind of agree. And I think this is a sore spot for Niners fans. And I think what he's going to say is, how many fourth quarter leads against big teams are we going to lose? How many times? And here's the thing. Some people say Kyle Juszczyk should have gone down on the play. Here's the thing. That's not what you're trying to do.
Right.
Do I wish he'd somehow been tackled short of the goal line? Absolutely. Because that would have ended the game. I have no doubt Jimmy Garoppolo could have snuck it. Or maybe Trey Lance gets the ball and it's game over. Yeah. But regardless, I do wish he had gone down, but that's not his responsibility. And I don't recall ever being taught as a defensive back, hey, can you bat that pass down, not pick it off?
Yeah.
You're taught high motor, finish, go for the kill. Right. Like the Super Bowl, like other games, perhaps even the Lions game, just taking your foot off the gas on the run. I know their run is not there with Raheem Mostert and some of the other guys that have gone down, but if they had run the ball one time, they would have won the game.
True.
Why do you go to the red zone with 3 timeouts in the fourth quarter? I mean, honestly, I would take a knee, do something, run the ball. You cannot just pass your way to victory and leave 37 seconds on the clock when they only need to get 30 yards.
Right. That's right.
And I mean, you're telling me that Aaron Rodgers cannot do 2 passes for about 30 yards? Of course he can. He did. Yeah. So that's where I think this frustration comes from. I happen to agree. There's this thing that Shanahan seems to struggle of just letting that clock run out. It's something he needs to get corrected immediately.